Hey everyone, I'm Ian,
And I'm Sam.
and you're listening to Do I Like This, the podcast.
Bam, bam, bam.
Bam, bam, future sounds. I said that because
Huh.
this episode, we go way into the future in a movie I found in everyone's trash can from the year 2000,
Mm-hmm.
Battlefield Earth.
I was gonna say you should pause for a second and see if they can guess.
I mean, I could build in a pause there, but I think it goes without saying.
Yeah, I wrote for my personal tagline the John Travolta Forrest Whitaker masterpiece.
Yeah, do I even need to read the IMDb after that? I will, but I think you nailed it.
Hold on. I think it's important that we note that the full title, according to the movie
Oh
title
yes.
sequence, is Battlefield Earth, the saga of the year 3000.
Yes, it's very important. That time note is important too because, well, you know what? We're just gonna get into it. Yep,
Oh, we
that is
will.
a good point.
We
Okay.
will get into all of it.
Oh man, there's so much to get into. Um, Fortunately, IMDb keeps it pretty short and sweet. The tagline for Battlefield Earth: A Saga of the Year 3000 is, "It's the year 3000 AD, and the Earth is lost to the alien race of Psycholos. Humanity's
Cyclo.
enslaved." Psychlos. All right, hold on. Let me do that again.
Mhm.
Yep.
Did you even watch the movie? They talk about themselves all the time.
Shut up. Shut up.
Like
All right.
egomaniacs
Shut up. All
with
right, I'm
Klingon
going into
hair.
the tagline.
All right,
None
go.
of this is going in. All right. It's the year 3000 AD, and the Earth is lost to the alien race of Psycholos. Psychlos. Oh my god.
No.
Psych
Cyclos.
dash los. This is going to be a day. All right. It's the year 3000 AD, and the Earth is lost to the alien race of Psychlos. Humanity is enslaved by these gold-thirsty tyrants who are unaware that their manimals are about to ignite the rebellion of a lifetime. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, Sam, let's just dive right into whatever the fuck this was.
Yeah, there's really no other way to get into this. It's just dive in. So we get a little note across the bottom of the screen that man is an endangered species. And we're panning across what looks to be Lord of the Rings vistas.
I wrote, is it a Latro opening too?
Right. Well, that's what it looks like. It looked like New Zealand, but apparently it's the Rocky Mountains, I think, because a lot of it takes place in Colorado.
Dude, what a random place for this to take place.
I mean, it's the middle of the country. It kind of makes sense. It's like where the Stand showdown was set. And
Sure.
I guess that's where people congregate.
Before we go any further, actually, what did you think Battlefield Earth was going to be about? Because it's renowned, and this is the first time we've seen this movie.
I'm going to tell you that I have vague recollections of the commercials. The
Mhm.
only thing I knew for sure about it was that John Travolta was dressed as a Klingon
Yes, he was.
with dreadlocks, and I thought it took place in outer space,
Mhm.
and I thought that there would be more battling. I actually wrote, hold on, in my final thoughts, I wrote, where were all the battlefields that the title promised? There was like a scuffle in an alley and a jet fighter dust up.
Yeah.
And that amounted to all the battles on Earth in Colorado, in Denver.
I mean, Earth was the battlefield, so they only promised one.
Yeah, I thought that it was like John Travolta in outer space attacking Earth and people defending it. So when this movie opened on the cave people, as I call them, I was like, wait, what? Hold up. Hold
That
up
was
just a second.
jarringly out of what my expectation was
Yeah.
as this movie opened. I was like, is this Hercules?
So again, I've done this before. I took voice notes because I just have too much shit going on. I had to watch this today while our kid was taking a nap, and I was trying to like food prep stuff. But all I did was shred 2 carrots the entire movie because I couldn't look away because I'm just staring at it.
You couldn't turn away from this.
I was like, what? Hold on, I'm going to miss something if I do anything. And so I really just like stood with my little grater and was just grating carrots. And I'm like, what? And then I just stopped and just leaned on the counter and watched it on my computer. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't handle it.
I definitely was in the other room, and I was watching it about 40 minutes ahead of you, so,
Mm-hmm.
which was kind of interesting. So I would hear some laughter, and I'm like, oh, I wonder where she just passed.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. So with my voice notes, sometimes it transcribes things that I didn't actually say. So from time to time, I'm going to be confused by what is coming up on my screen here. For instance, I wrote when the action starts, well, when the movie starts,
When the action starts, how dare you?
there's a lady dressed like a tree. Oh, I remember what I was supposed to say. There's a lady dressed like a Treyu from
Yes,
Neverending Story,
there is.
watching some dude on a horse. And I wrote, Atreyu? She looks disturbed, and everyone has sexy romance novel hair, right?
Oh,
Long, like messy.
I mean, sexy but dirty.
Well, yeah, it's tousled by the dirt and air. The guy on the horse who arrives finds out his dad just died, and he has a very emotional reaction before apparently burying him in what looks to be the Scottish Highlands. I don't know where this movie takes place.
One of many random slow motion, like short moments this movie throws
Dude,
about.
so many weird slow motion moments.
Man. Oh,
So
I was so
many.
confused.
It was weird. So basically, we get the setup that these people all live in caves and they're all starving. They're barely eating. They're afraid of demon monsters. And they basically like dedicate their lives to feeding the gods so they'll come back and drive the demons away, who apparently descended from outer space. So I'm like, oh, the aliens? Okay.
Yeah.
Because we find out this takes place 1,000 years after the Cyclos came and took over. We find that out later.
I have a question for you on this. I
Uh-huh.
understand how prehistoric man, before there was knowledge
Right.
of science, of the way the universe worked, thinking the gods above,
Uh-huh.
demons coming down. This is clearly the year 3000. After we've understood space, we understand these
Right.
things. How we've regressed and that knowledge is lost bothered me.
I can understand some of the lost knowledge piece, but I can't understand like the full total loss of everything. But then being able to understand 1,000-year-old texts and
Yeah.
jet plane instructions, etc. We will get to that.
This'll be easy. Yeah.
Right. So the lead character, which we find out an hour or so into the movie, his name is Johnny.
The futuristic name Johnny.
Right, and his lady friend is named Chrissy.
Oh, I never heard that. That's ridiculous.
So I guess in the year 3000 they still have like stupid names. So
It's still the 80s, yeah.
so there's the lead guy. He looks like Alex Winter from Bill and Ted, not Keanu Reeves, half of Bill and Ted.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, dude, that's not him. This movie's too old for that. And it doesn't really look exactly like him. And I'm like, why do I know who this guy is? And halfway through the movie, it hit me that his name is Barry Pepper, and he's been in a ton of stuff, but he was the sharpshooter in Saving Private Ryan,
Okay.
who's like an iconic role. And he was very good in that movie. And he's been in a couple other movies where he was really good. So I'm like, why is he in this movie? Like, what the fuck is he doing?
He's not bad. It's just everything's bad. So
Yeah.
any performance you give is not going to be good.
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, working with the script and everything that they had, I can't imagine anyone would be very successful. So yeah, so it's that guy, and he has this weird moment where he's like, has anyone ever seen a demon? And he's literally like jumping and leaping and twirling, and he's like, "Ah," in his rebelliousness, I guess. I don't know. And I was like, what is
And the
this?
cave paintings and all. It's just such a weird fucking setup.
Yeah. So he decides to leave to go find food or something. I don't even know. I'm not really sure what his initial quest was. Was he going to find food? Was he going to disprove the existence of demons? Was he going to go look for God? Like, I don't fucking know.
I kind of think
Right?
he's just like, I'm going to go out there and prove y'all wrong somehow. He didn't like the village elder. They had a contextual relationship. He kind of was like,
Hold
whatever,
on.
dad, you can't tell me what to do. But even though it's not his dad.
I don't think they had a bad relationship. I think it was just in that moment.
I think he was just honestly going out there being like, "Meh, I'm gonna do what I'm not supposed to do."
Anything goes, really. At a certain point in this movie, I just stopped asking questions. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Just fuck it.
It hit very quick in my
Mhm.
stop asking questions.
As he's leaving, Chrissy meets him at the gate and she's like, here's a necklace that your mom gave to me to pass down to your children. And for some reason, they both have very wet hair, which
Mhm.
bothered me.
Denver's very humid.
I don't know. Listen, Barry, Johnny has some hair issues, and I talk about it a lot in my notes. I have some words to say about his hair.
Everyone in this movie has hair issues.
Well, listen, aside from the John Travolta, Forrest Whitaker Klingon wigs, Barry's hair goes through some things.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to call him Johnny because that's his name in the movie and I don't want to get confused. So Johnny is riding his horse through a forest, like no longer in the desert of Colorado. He's in a forest.
Those desert mountains of Colorado. Like Vale and Aspen.
Yes, which we see briefly.
Oh, yeah, we do.
So he hears what the captions say are jet engines overhead. And then he falls off his horse and is attacked by a sculpture of a dragon. And he starts hitting it with a sword. And so here I wrote, wait, hold on. Is this an M. Night Shyamalan The Village situation? Are they just like people living in a cave while civilization has advanced while they were away? It's not, unfortunately.
That would have been better.
Anything really would have been better.
I thought he stumbled into a giant mini golf course for a second.
That's what it looked like. That's what it kind of looked like, right? I don't know what else it could have been. It was just like weird sculptures. So
what are you doing, Denver?
I don't know. But he runs into a couple of people out there. One of them is my favorite character from Sons of Anarchy, Tig. Have you ever seen that? You've never actually watched that show.
No.
You should watch it. It's fun. It's not wonderful, but it's good and it's fun. And it has a good ending, which is important for me.
Okay. Sold.
So the whole time I call him Tig. I don't know what his real name is.
Oh, I never got that.
They don't give them till much later on for the most part. So they call Johnny a non-believer and ask him if he'd like to see the gods. And I don't know. They have like a whole exchange. They wind up taking him with them.
Yeah, they went from hostile to friendly real quick.
Right. They were like, all right, besties. So they wind up going into what he's like, oh, this is the village that we walk through to get to the gods. And it's just the city with like sculptures of, what the fuck are they called? Statues. And he's like, oh, those are the frozen ones. When the gods came, they told them not to look at them, and they looked, so they're frozen, and the gods punish them. And so they're coming up with all these like ridiculous stories about the history of mankind, and they're going on and they're talking about like mannequins, like, oh, those poor guys, blah blah blah. So I think it's supposed to be funny.
It's so dumb.
And then they're talking about like the lights and like the lights up above are the gods and the demons or whatever. And so it's shown how they've regressed basically back to like cavemen, essentially.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about anything, which again is weird. But I guess if you're like so removed, and maybe if like no one's telling stories, which seems not real, then you wouldn't know anything, right? I don't fucking know.
What's weird to me is, we'll find out later in the movie, is everything has aged and preserved impeccably from the year 2000, from the Library of Congress to all your books. So you could have
jet
easily
fuel,
found this.
right.
Yeah. To electricity. Yeah. So it's very confusing to me that everything has regressed and yet everything is still there and available.
Yeah. So Johnny and his new buddies are in like an old abandoned mall eating food, a rabbit or something. And then suddenly we see like this weird hand holding a laser gun. And there's this really strange chase with no sound.
No sound. Bizarre.
Slow motion.
Ugh.
One of his new buddies gets murdered. The other guy like gets shot and the horse gets shot. And then Johnny gets shot.
So much broken glass.
So much broken glass and slow motion falling and slow motion glass. I wrote in the middle of all of that, like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Oh, and you're getting like these half shots of this pursuer too.
Right. So they all get picked up and taken away in some sort of ship. There's lots of cave people in the ship being transported. Everyone's freaking out. Tig is still alive. Johnny's still alive. They get taken to this glass dome enclosure. It looks like the aviary from Jurassic Park,
Yes.
except it's just the city of Denver, Colorado. And there are no dinosaurs, regrettably. So there's that. They get unloaded from the spaceship? I don't fucking know.
It's kind of like a cage under a spaceship. Yeah.
It's a little spaceship. They get unloaded. We get the bit of knowledge that the air underneath this dome is poisonous to the humans,
Mhm.
and they get these little nose plug things shoved in their face
Yeah.
to help them breathe. One of the guys looks like Bon Jovi. And they're at what's called the Human Processing Center. So the whole thing with the shit, like the nose plugs,
Mhm.
we're going to get so much more of this. But this movie is one of the things it's ripping off is Dune, like very blatantly. One of the other things it's ripping off is Planet of the Apes, very blatantly.
Mhm.
The villains are Klingons, right?
1,000%. 1,000%.
Yeah.
Well, and it's ripping off Independence Day. I mean, everything gets ripped off in this.
Well, yeah, there's a little bit of that. Yeah, this movie is just ripping off everything good. They're just stealing,
Mm-hmm.
which you can do in a successful way. But we'll get to that.
Oh, that's a funny idea of this movie.
Yeah.
Successful.
So yeah, I call them Klingons for the most part. The Cyclos. They're tall. They have big dreadlocks. They have like the high forehead with the wrinkles. They have this guttural speech.
This is where I wrote literally in full caps, alien noises, because it cracked me up.
They have big kiss boots.
Yeah, they're something special.
Well, because they're supposed to be like very tall or something, but they just look ridiculous. They look like they just have really long shins.
I didn't understand their design in the slightest.
Weird. We'll talk about it in a little bit.
Oh my God.
So at this point, our main guy, Johnny, steals a gun and shoots one of the Cyclos and runs away. He lands at the feet of John Travolta and Forrest Whitaker. They give him a little slappy slap and they bring him back to the ship. And here's where we get one of the most ridiculous moments of all time in any movie ever.
Yeah.
So John Travolta is speaking in his Klingon voice. He's like,
his alien noises. Yeah.
And then he suddenly switches into English, into like his little
Baby John voice.
Slightly high pitched, kind of, I guess, especially compared to the language they were speaking. John Travolta voice with some indiscernible, potentially British-ish accent that comes and goes.
Oh God.
Right?
Dude, his enunciation, his delivery of lines in this movie is fucking insane. I have no idea.
Half the time when he's talking, his teeth are closed. Like he's not moving his jaw. He's like, "What did I tell you?
I'm so proud of you, my student."
But the way he just like yell talks and does this maniacal sort of like, like when he's speaking, it's so bizarre. I don't understand that choice.
And we'll talk about it more, but how they decided his species and these douchebag aliens is the bad I kept referring to. Like the shittiest people ever.
Oh, God.
So add that on top of his delivery.
Well, so when the speech just switched mid-sentence, and you probably didn't hear me because you had your headphones in because you were watching in the other room, but I was like, wait, what? No. Is that really how they're going to handle that? They're not going to do a translator in the ear? Like they're not going to pretend to have something?
I mean, they'll pretend something for one character.
Oh my God.
It was an awful way to handle indecipherable languages between species.
It was very silly.
Because the human inverse is whenever you're the Cyclos and you hear humans, the humans are just going.
Yeah, they sound like apes, basically.
It's ridiculous.
Which is, right. The Planet of the Apes connection, among others.
Dumb.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, that was a little too on the nose for me.
So what confused me next is Johnny has shot a guy, escaped, and gotten caught back. If I were a superior race, I've been like, this thing's annoying, kill it, get rid of it, it's a problem.
Right.
They repeatedly don't address what are easy solutions to these annoying manimals.
Right. So they continually, instead of punishing him, they essentially reward him to
Yeah.
the point where he becomes their doom.
Hmm.
Right?
Oh yeah. Like all of this could have been prevented. This entire movie could have been
Right
prevented if
here.
they're like
This movie
right
would have
here.
been over right here. Yeah.
Oh, you killed one of our guys? Dead. Yeah. Simple
Yeah.
solution.
So we get this whole like moment we're not going to get into because it's ridiculous. There's a lot of these ridiculous moments where it just shows that John Travolta is like ruthless and a dickhole, basically.
Hmm.
Right?
Absolute piece of shit.
And we're seeing that Johnny might be like a special type of human because he has abilities beyond what other humans have shown so far, I guess.
So we're 20 minutes in the movie, and I
Right.
wrote, what the fuck is the plot of this movie?
I actually wrote, I don't have words. I'm completely speechless. Like, I just don't understand it.
But I wanted to see more of it, which is, I
Right.
guess, good.
Right. So, then now we're at the Klingon bar. They're Klingons, whatever. So here we get a little bit of backstory. We get John Travolta, who I call JT for in my notes,
Mhm.
because I think his character's name is like Terrell.
I think it's like TREL, Trell or something. Yeah, he's John
Terrell.
Travolta.
Yeah, JT. JT and the bartender are going back and forth. They have like a little agreement. So JT is the head security chief. Their race is called the Cyclos. John Travolta is basically like, I am getting off this shitty planet. I'm going back to my planet. I put in for a transfer.
Oh yeah, they hate Earth.
Yeah, he and the bartender had an arrangement where he was like providing him information and they just had this whole little like whatever.
The bartender did something unknown that Travolta was not reporting. Yeah.
Here's where we get that Travolta is really into having leverage against people. He says it many times throughout the movie, like leverage.
This movie could have been titled Battlefield Leverage, and it would have been more accurate.
So he likes to have leverage against people. He likes to double cross them.
Yeah.
He likes to do the whole like rhetorical speech thing where he'll say like, well, I'm going to uphold our bargain in exactly the way that you said it. It's almost like making a deal with the devil type thing. So whatever. So he's just yell talking and laughing maniacally. And the whole exchange was just to give us the backstory that he's the head of security and he's supposed to be getting off of Earth soon. The end.
Yeah, they could have just done that in a passing conversation.
Right. So as we're getting more storyline about this whole John Travolta setup, we keep cutting back to Johnny, who just keeps trying to resist everything and keeps getting the crap kicked out of him. And in my notes, instead of saying the crap kicked out of him, I wrote getting the crab cake out of him.
I mean,
That's
sure.
what my voice note said. Yeah.
They really weren't being that aggressive with him, so it wasn't really discouraging to not keep trying.
Right. So now we get a Klingon leader type, a Cyclos leader. He teleports in from the home planet and he starts talking about how Earth is just disgusting and gravity is stupid and human animals are yucky, et cetera, et cetera. Forrest Whitaker's character, his name is Kerr. I call him Forrest Whitaker or FW for the rest of my notes. So the leader says, when we're done mining this planet for gold, we're going to exterminate all the humans. And in my head, I'm like, it's been 1,000 years.
Yeah.
If you haven't gotten all the gold, you're doing something wrong. It is definitely not one of the most prevalent minerals on the planet.
And spoilers, they've done a really bad job finding like the most accessible gold, let alone the hard stuff.
Right. Like, go to all of the treasury departments and find the gold.
Yeah. If you're smart enough to understand, as we'll see, like these knowledge machines and things, you can figure out pretty quickly, like, hey, we have already acquired most of it. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of silly. So, blah, blah, blah. This is all just setting up that they hate Earth. Earth is gross. They've been there for a long time. The end. So JT keeps talking about his transfer off the planet. And the leader is like, you know what? We're denying your transfer. And in fact, you're going to stay here pretty much forever.
Indefinitely, yeah.
And John Travolta is not happy. Apparently, it has to do with John Travolta and the senator's daughter having a situation that we don't get explained. So then the leader teleports back to Cyclo and we get the planet Cyclo and we get a little bit of a moment where we see it and it pretty much just looks like a CGI city from Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or any like standard science fiction like space industrial city.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
So uh, there's other stuff that's happening, but basically it's just JT being theatrical and obnoxious, and none of it matters.
No.
So now in the other movie that is happening concurrently,
Oh yeah, there are two different films happening.
there are two different movies happening right now. There's the John Travolta movie where he wants to leave, get off of Earth, and then
Mhm.
there's the Johnny movie where he's the rebel and he's in jail and he's going to try to start a revolution. And here's the moment where we get him starting to sway people to his side, which is, I guess, important in the grand scheme
Sure.
of things. So in the jail, everybody eats slop out of a trough. There's a guy who comes over and he's like, I eat first and then my men and then everybody else. Fuck this shit. And Johnny and him fight and then Johnny wins and is like, he makes a speech about let's not kill each other over food and then starts feeding everybody. And I'm like, oh, okay, that happened.
He has like these Braveheart style moments throughout the film,
Oh, yeah, he does a Braveheart speech later.
and it just is so bizarre.
It's Braveheart. It's Dune because have you read the books?
Yeah, I've read the first one.
Okay, so in the first book, it's Dune. It's like when Paul goes to the siege and he fights the other guy and he lets him live even though he's supposed to kill him, and then he kind of like unites everybody behind him, sort of thing. It's this sort of moment, and it's God, I fucking hate it. Just hate it.
I think I just kept struggling, waiting for a coherent like plot to come together and give me something that I'm like, all right, this is what we're going towards. Because I think around this point in the movie, you had paused, I think, and come in to look at me, and I paused and I was ahead, and you're like, what the fuck? And I looked at you and I'm like, dude, you don't even understand where it's gonna go because you can't anticipate what's gonna happen in this movie, which I'm all for surprises, but this isn't like the good kind of surprise where you're like, that makes no sense. You're like, oh, I was surprised.
This is exactly where I wrote, at this point in the movie, everything that's happened, it should be halfway over now.
Yes.
Everything that's happened, this is the turning point for everybody. We're about to have some decisions being made, the climax, and then the end, right? But no, there's still an hour and a half left. And I wrote this, no conception of where this movie could possibly be going.
There's no way you could.
At all. At all. And if I were to speculate at that moment when I wrote that, I would have been very wrong.
The next scene made me so angry. I'll have you explain it, but I just wrote, God, these terrible alien prophet conversations.
Oh, yeah. So there's basically like JT and Forrest Whitaker are having a moment. They're like betraying each other over some mining recon photos of gold. And the whole point of the whole thing is just to give us the single line that the alien's breath reacts with uranium and causes a like massive explosion.
Yeah. Radioactivity and their breath is just like not good. Which really, that's, oh my God. Like all of the things in this movie make my head hurt.
It was like a 20-minute scene of them talking about betraying each other. And John Travolta the whole time is like, he's like, oh, Forrest Whitaker, you're a moron and I have to teach you everything and you would be nothing without me and I have all this leverage over you and you don't know how to do anything. And so that's basically kind of what's driving a lot of that. And it's like 15 to 20 minutes of that for that one single line that matters.
And then they go and have another scene with like the local, I guess, planetary head where they're explaining this new idea they're going to exploit using men to mine it.
No. That's not what happens.
Oh, that's not there yet. Fucking movie.
So what happens here is that John Travolta comes up with a plan to get his ass off this rock. He says to Forrest Whitaker, you are going to tell the head of the planet. I don't, he's called like the
planet side or something.
Yeah, he's called the planet something. I don't know. But he's the head of the planet. He runs the planet. He's basically like the governor of Earth. Let's just say that.
Sure.
And he says, Forrest Whitaker, you're going to tell the governor that there's going to be a mutiny, even though there's not really.
Mm-hmm.
So that way we can kind of foist our little plan onto him. And JT's plan is to train the humans to mine so that they can go mine the gold for him underneath the noses of everyone. So he can steal all the gold for himself, basically, is what's happening. So he comes up with a ruse. They go to the governor and they're like, oh my God, there's going to be a mutiny. And the reason that there's a mutiny is because people aren't getting paid enough and labor shortage and blah, 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 blah. And there's all this economic stuff that they're trying to put out there.
Oh God, that conversation was fucking painful.
It again, it's Dune. Well,
Yeah.
a really shitty version of Dune. So they're trying to like put economics into it. And it's like, stop.
Mhm.
You are overstepping L. Ron Hubbard and company. It just makes me mad. Dune is one of my favorites. So if anyone has listened and heard me rant about how much I love it before. So it's even more annoying watching this. So JT is basically like, listen, to keep our people happy, why don't we train some of the humans to mine? We'll take the man animals out to a remote area to train so that it doesn't make you look bad, so nobody knows what's happening. And then we'll just train them how to mine so that our people aren't suffering and whatever. And the governor's like, no, we're not doing that. No, that's a bad idea. And so then JT's like, well, I guess I'm coming up with another way to do it. Here's where I'm confused because aren't the humans already mining? What are they doing?
Dude, I don't know what the humans are doing. I think they're schlepping stuff inside the city.
Okay, but to what end and why are they doing it for 1,000 years and why is it like such a thing? Like I don't understand.
This movie makes no sense because they
Yeah.
say like they're importing workers and paying them lower wages, and the idea that using humans is blasphemy. It makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, what's the point of enslaving the human race then?
Right? Free labor. Come on.
They're just like schlepping rocks. Like, dude, make them mine. That's the worst part. That's the yucky part. I don't get it.
I don't even know.
Yeah. So, moving on. They're all in the city. The humans are in the city. A tower falls of some kind. There's all this slow motion dirt falling and rocks falling, and some humans die. And our protagonist grabs a brick and he smashes his chain and he gets away. This guy is like, how many times has he escaped already? He just keeps escaping.
That's all he does. Again, like I said, I would put him down. He's if I was them. It's like this
Yeah.
is a problem. Let's just get rid of it.
So he's escaping. He gets caught.
He's shitty at escaping.
Yeah, he constantly is getting shot with these little lasers, which apparently are not fatal.
Okay, so there's my other question. Are they under orders not to kill the humans?
Yeah, I think they are because they're free labor. Because there's a scene where we see later that they have to be ordered to kill them, but that's like at the end. So here's where we get a moment where he gets taken away, and two of the Klingons, they take his little nose breathing apparatus away, and they're like, better last less than 4 minutes before his lungs burst. And then they just kind of like let him go, and he's running around holding his breath.
Yeah.
And I'm like, first of all, you're panicking. Second of all, you're running. There's no way you're holding your breath, but sure. Keep going, buddy.
Third of all, there's all these other guards around who don't react.
They're
to
not
him,
reacting,
like, wildly flailing as though it's not a normal thing. It's bizarre.
Pretty funny. So he winds up like grabbing somebody else's nose breathing thing, and the guy lets him like breathe through it, whatever. The things that are chasing him get mad. They start shooting at him because he cheated, and he gets taken back and whatever. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Now we cut back to the other movie, and JT and Forrest Whitaker are talking about their plotting. And he says, how do I know that you even know the plan? And that's pretty much exactly how he says it.
Oh my
really.
God. Yeah.
You should just tell me all about it, because otherwise I don't think I can trust you. And then Forrest Whitaker starts laying out the plan as JT pushes a record button to record the conversation.
This is after their first encounter where Forrest Whitaker got caught being spied on, so he should know better.
Yeah, that's true. Forrest Whitaker's basically like, well, here's what we do. We train the humans to steal the gold and blah, 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 blah. And then JT's like, how dare you? You're breaking protocol. I'm going to have to punish you. And then he turns off his recording. And Forrest Whitaker's like, but it's your plan. And he goes, yeah, I know, but I needed to record you saying all that stuff and me reprimanding you so that now I have leverage.
Oh my God. He's so good at getting leverage. Everyone just gives it to him.
And then he just starts telling Forrest Whitaker, like, I'm going to pin it on you if something goes wrong. And I have this disc right here in my hand that I'm going to put right here in this place. And if something happens to me, then it's going to get sent to the planet and they're going to come get you. Blah.
Consider this another part of your education. Always have a patsy.
Right. So here's where I'm going to ask that you and I pause and take a second to talk about their kiss boots and their hobbit feet hands. Their hands look like gremlin hobbit feet. Why? Why couldn't they just have hands? The rest of them is totally humanoid.
I think the problem you have is you expected someone who was involved in this movie to have a coherent image and like a plan and like thoughts that work together instead of just this amalgam of shit that got thrown together into a pot. Because I think someone probably was just like, oh, today I bet it'd be cool if their hands were fucked up. And someone's like, sure, do it. Like, that's my thought on how they made this movie.
They're just like hairy gremlin hands that kind of look like hobbit feet. Like they're just gigantic.
No need.
Well, it's so bizarre. So their heads are human-sized heads, and then their bodies are all padded up like football hockey players.
Well, their heads are like engorged human-sized heads because their foreheads are like the airhead's head.
So they have normal human-sized heads, then they have long foreheads, and then they have a bouffant of dreadlocks. Yeah. But their faces and necks are human-sized, but then they look like they're wearing hockey goalie padding, and then their legs are like kind of just like padded, and then all of a sudden you hit their boots and you get like 3.5 feet of gigantic fat clompy boot feet. They kind of remind me, they're like kiss boots without the sparkles. And also, remember the Super Mario Brothers movie?
Yes.
When they get like the moon boots, they kind of look like that. But not cool.
So I think it's worth mentioning too, like half of them are giant and out of shape. They're in these, but they don't move well. They're in these bizarre outfits. My thought as I was watching this movie is like, how did this species take over the fucking galaxy? Not the way they are effective at combat.
In 9 minutes.
They're very like unmotivated. It seems it was very bizarre. They have no design style. Like they can't even put together like a fabulous outfit to take over my planet.
Well, listen, their outfits kind of look like Dune outfits. They're like still suits a little bit. Like, well, no, they look like still suits mixed with Klingon outfits. Like it just was very, very strange. So,
do we have to?
All right, unpause. Let's keep going. So now we're back to Johnny, who's still running from earlier. They didn't catch him again. I don't know. They've caught and released him so many times. I fucked that up, but who cares? So he's now he's down in the sewers, and he goes so far down into the sewers that he comes out into a place where the air is breathable again for him.
Yep.
So
science.
Whatever. So the two guards that are chasing him, they corner him because somehow they have also slid down the tiny sewer holes that were just barely big enough for Johnny.
I assume there was just a simple door they walked down and Johnny was just not good at looking.
Probably. And so at the moment that they're about to kill him, Deus Ex John Travolta and Forrest Whitaker come in. They come in and save him. And they're like, oh, he's smart and resourceful. And we're gonna use him for our mining operation. Then they have this whole conversation that I think is supposed to be satirical, I think, where he's trying to figure out what leverage to use against the humans.
Oh my God. This movie needed like 90% less conversations between Whitaker and John Travolta.
Yeah, so this is like 10 minutes long of John Travolta talking about like I wonder what their favorite food is. And it's like, okay. Oh, sure. And so he's like, we're going to release them into the wild and we're going to watch them and we're going to see what they eat. And And so now we have Cave Guy Johnny, Tig, and the guy from jail that Johnny beat over the food dispute. So they let them escape, and we see them climbing a mountain, and they're in Aspen. Travolta and Whitaker are watching from afar because apparently there are cameras everywhere. And they're talking about how it's been 3 days.
Yeah.
Now that they've found a place to sleep, like they found shelter, they're going to find their favorite food and celebrate. So the humans find some rats and they kill them and eat them raw because they're starving and there's nothing else to eat. So they're like, ew, look at how they're enjoying that raw rat because they're eating it so slowly and they're not even bothering to cook it. They must love it. That must be their favorite. And they're going on and on and on. And I'm like, I really hope this is meant to be satirical. I really hope this is meant to be funny because otherwise it's just very poorly written.
All I could think of was, what leverage do you need more than, hey, I'll let you keep living if you do the shit I'm telling you?
Well, and also, okay, so you've been on the planet for 1,000 years, right? It never once occurred to you to even like kind of sort of pay attention to the human race so that maybe you could figure
Nah.
out something about them in case they decided to like revolt against you but I guess these people the Klingons are like so egomaniacal that I think that they just don't care. They're like, well, we're so far above them, right?
They don't have time. They're busy getting leverage.
I guess.
Also, is it really leverage that he's getting, or just like incentivizing them, like bribes? It's not really leverage being like, I found food you like. Would you like it to do a thing? That's not leverage.
I don't even know, dude. Like,
Ugh.
yeah. Another thing I just stopped paying attention to. So as Travolta and Whitaker are watching from their little cameras, they're like zooming in and out. And Johnny realizes that one of the buttons on his shirt is a camera and he rips it off. And then he goes and rips off the buttons on the other two guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then Travolta's like, how? How is that possible? Oh my God. Now we have to go get them.
We only put those 3 cameras on their bodies. We're not monitoring them in any other way.
Right.
Now they're free. And then he hits his head on the ceiling, and that made me laugh.
Oh yes, because so that set up something for later. He's like, I thought I told you to fix that. And so that is a whole other thing. So the 3 guys in the wilderness, they get caught.
Worst at hiding. Oh my God.
They get caught like immediately, basically.
While trying to jump over an impossible ravine.
Yeah, by trying to jump across what equates to like the Grand Canyon.
Johnny thought he could make it.
Because he's a very special guy.
Dumb as fuck.
Yeah. So at this moment, the jail dude gets killed because Travolta and Whitaker are like,
have the stupidest argument.
He's like, oh, maybe humans can fly. And Travolta's like, they can't fly. And he's like, well, just because we haven't seen it doesn't mean it's not true. And then Travolta just throws the jail guy off the cliff. And he's like, see, that's why I'm in charge and you're just a Dumbo. Okay.
Again, 1,000 years you haven't figured out they can't fly.
Yeah. Come on, Forrest Whitaker. Come on. You're better than that.
No.
He knows it too. He knows it. So now it's have
a paycheck.
Right. Our guys are back in Cyclo prison. And what's going on here is that Johnny and his pals have all been brought in to fix the ceiling in Travolta's command room. I wrote throne room control palace.
/ studio apartment.
Right. So everybody's in there. They're doing whatever work it is. Travolta comes in and grabs Johnny and brings him to an adjacent room, straps him in a chair, and a hologram of some other alien race pops up. And he's like, I'm part of this race that's probably exterminated by now, and I'm here to educate you in the language of the Cyclos and stuff. Yeah.
And stuff being all of knowledge of history.
All the knowledge ever of all time, including the Cyclo language.
I did like this machine. This is one of the few things I like. I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah. No, I think that it was a smart plot element
Yeah.
because you need to figure out how Johnny is going to learn the language, the cyclo language. He's
Hmm.
going to learn enough about things to be able to lead the revolt and defeat them.
Hmm.
Because up until now, it's like it's dudes with sticks and rocks, you know?
Who can't even understand their captors.
Right. So basically, they're like force feeding the information. It's just like holograms going into Johnny's eyes, essentially.
It looked kind of cool.
Yeah, it was fine. Like for the time and for the rest of the effects of this movie, it was probably one of the better effects.
Because the rest of the movie looked worse than Star Wars shot in the 70s did.
Yeah, it was not good.
Not good.
So the cave people coming in and fixing the ceiling is basically a ruse to get Johnny educated enough to understand the cyclo language so that he can run this clandestine mining operation.
Yes.
Um, so then Tig figures out that he's in this room and he runs in and he pulls him off the machine. And Johnny's like, no, no, it's all good. I'm just being bombarded by knowledge. And now I know all about them and I know their language and I need to get back onto that machine and I need to
Yeah.
learn more.
Smart Johnny.
Right. So then later on, they're back in jail. He's drawing like on the floor, telling them about mathematics as the unifying language.
Yeah.
He's doing
Euclidean geometry.
geometry. Right. He starts talking. He's like talking about all of these advanced concepts that even like people who understand the language and mathematics don't understand. And everyone's just looking at him like, what the fuck? And so
Like,
I wrote here,
bro, what are you on?
the sentence I wrote was, he literally just said the words Euclidean geometry and I hate everything.
Yeah. I wrote down, he's learned everything ever. Cool.
Yeah. So what does Travolta's character not understand about educating the masses? Like, if you are a dictator of any kind, the minute you give education to the populace, like, you are going to lose your position. Period.
Well, let's just take a moment here and address
Yeah.
the elephant in the room. Travolta is smarter than the humans, but he's a dumb fuck compared to
Oh,
apparently everyone else that was his peers because he makes horrible decisions. He made a mistake with the senator's daughter. He was bragging about how smart he is, and we all know people who have to brag about how smart they are tend to not be as smart as they think they are.
well, here's the thing. He is a very classic narcissist.
Oh God, yeah.
And while they can be charismatic and intelligent, they also are egotistical and tend to kind of act without thinking from time to time, often. Uh, and that is kind of the downfall. And so he's so wrapped up in what he wants
Mm-hmm.
and his grandiose thinking that he can't uh, see the forest for the trees. He can't see the big picture. He can't see like, oh, I'm educating this one person. That's not going to come to anything. But it's like, yeah, but you're educating this one person, then you're sending him back into his population where he's going to educate the people around him.
Part of me thinks he was just dumb and he didn't know how to turn the machine off, just teach the language.
So like time after time throughout history, we see that you cut people off from education and experiences outside their own like little bubble, and that causes them to be compliant and to believe really dumb shit. QAnon.
QAnon.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
among other things. Anti-vaxxers. So we're, it's really unfortunate that like, we see in our society like the anti-education push,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like the anti-intellectual, and it comes from a place of fear, and
It's a mechanism of control.
absolutely. And so it's comfortable for someone else to feed you the
Mhm.
information and for you to just continue to exist in the way you've always existed. It's uncomfortable to learn something new, to
Be
admit that
challenged.
maybe you don't know something, to admit maybe you were wrong, and to maybe relearn something, and then to rise above and, like you said, to be challenged and to either fail or to succeed or whatever. And so this movie to me is like, it's a good example of that in like a really shitty way. Like, it's I think it's trying to convey something totally different, and what it winds up
Mhm.
doing is giving us this rabbit trail that I've gone on. you
Yes.
know? Because L. Ron Hubbard, let's be serious. Scientologists, fast forward for a few minutes. He is, by and large, one of history's most infamous charlatans, right? It's a recorded fact that he made a bet with someone to write a book that would start a cult, and he
Mm-hmm.
did, and it is incredibly successful. It's made a lot of money. He is regarded as like a religious figure, and if you know anything about Scientology, it's about aliens, right? Like come to Earth. And it's super anti-psychology, it's anti-intellectualism, it's anti-everything so that it can kind of force feed you this ridiculous information to get you to do what they want you to do and basically take your money, right?
Yeah.
And so this movie highlights it in a way that I don't think that they meant to at all, right? That's just what I'm seeing.
I didn't get that from this movie at all, but I could see how it could align that way. Maybe the reason I didn't get it from this movie is I was so fucking exhausted by this movie by the time we were anywhere in that my brain was like, I just want to get through it. I'm not giving it that level of depth.
Well, because at the end of the day, we know that the intellectual wins, and like the education and all that stuff is important and it wins and blah blah
Mhm.
blah. But I think like the roundabout sentiment, in my feeling anyway,
Is
was
don't teach your
probably
manimals stuff.
right, right.
Yeah.
So it was weird. Not to mention that the cyclos were named after psychologists because L. Ron Hubbard hates psychologists. He thinks they're evil and monsters.
Oh, someone has some mama issues.
Among other things.
Yeah.
So now we are back in the throne room, as I called it, the control room.
The head bump room.
Yeah. Johnny and his buddies are reading a bunch of tablets because now Johnny can read. And they get into this side room that has the recording machines,
Mhm.
the weaponry, and no one is watching them. These Klingons are dum-dums.
Oh, they're dumb. They do not watch their humans at all. Like
No.
repeatedly, I've make notes later on when there's the big climax. I'm like, no one was watching them at all. They just let them
Mm-mm.
go places.
Oh yeah,
And
multiple times.
specifically Johnny T. Like you spy on everyone to get leverage, but you leave your manimals alone. It's bizarre.
That's very strange.
Hashtag leave your manimals alone.
You keep calling them animals, but they're man animals is what they call
Yeah,
them.
I've combined them. I don't like hyphens.
I like your word better, but I just need to be clear that they didn't come up with that cool word.
All right, yes, let's be clear. I'll take credit for improving the script. While exhausted, laying in a chair, it was that hard to improve.
So we have a flash over to the cave people where Johnny came from and his little girlfriend Christy.
Christy, yeah.
Johnny's horse returns without him.
What the fuck?
It had been shot by a laser. I thought it was dead.
I thought it was dead, and I didn't know it had GPS to get back home.
Animals get back home. He wasn't that far away from home, I don't think. Doesn't matter. Point is, she watches on sadly. She's like, fuck this. I'm going to get my man. And the elder is standing by the gates. He's like, you can't leave. And she's like, watch me, bitch. And she just leaves. Like I said, this is two different movies happening at the same time. So we're like, back to this, and then back to that, and then back to this, and then back to that. But at this point, our two movies have kind of merged.
It feels like a bad video game plot.
Yeah, you said that earlier. Like, this movie is a video game.
Yeah.
And it's not a good one.
No, it's not a good video game. It reminds me like if Mass Effect was shitty, where you just like you're trying to do all these different things and have like all these conversations and relationships, but you also have a little bit of combat, but not much, and you just want to return it to GameStop for a store credit.
It's like if Skyrim didn't have any fighting or like bosses.
And the writing wasn't interesting.
Right. And you're just like
sense.
Going around like asking people where the thieves are. How to join the Thieves Guild.
And all the town guards are like, I'm watching you, but you know they're not watching you.
No, they're totally not watching you at all.
They're uninterested.
While you dress up in their clothes and learn their language
Yeah.
and
You
infiltrate
shoot
them.
one of them with their own weapon.
Right. Well, they actually tend to react a bit more in Skyrim than they do in this movie when you shoot one of their own.
Well, that's my joke, is like our version, this movie version of it, they'd be like, oh, you shot my guard. My AI pathing doesn't do anything there.
So all that to say that now we're back in Travolta's hologram room and Johnny is being forced more hologram stuff and he's pretending he doesn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Also, all the cave people have guns and stuff now.
Travolta's a real genius because as they're trying to hack that door, we forgot to mention, they're like, in the notes they're reading, they're like, don't use your employee ID number. And he just used it backwards. So they just go, well, that didn't work. Let's try it backwards. And it opens up.
Hold on. Before we go any further, I do want to mention that the cave people have a lot of like things that they say and do that I'm like, okay, you didn't pass down like math and science and literature and all this stuff, but you passed down like weird sayings like piece of cake, the grass is always greener.
Saint Yogi Berra is one of their heroes.
I guess so. One of their gods that fleed the planet.
Oh yeah, because they called him greener because the grass is always, because he was always trying to find someone else to make
the
it
grass is always
so
greener.
weird.
Yeah, and then Tig says piece of cake a lot.
But we're not going to explain planets and the sky.
Right. So
Yeah, to be fair,
there's
that's probably what
that.
I'd do.
Some of the things that they say, like when they're thinking of things, well, why don't we try it backward? Like, no one would think of that because you don't have
No.
fucking passwords in a cave.
No.
Right?
Although John Travolta clearly would be the guy who clicks on the phishing emails and fucks everything up
God.
for all the psycholos.
Psycholos.
Such a dumbass. Use my ID number backwards. Fuck you, John. That's why you're stuck on Earth for 50 more cycles.
So Travolta and Whitaker are mad at Johnny for not being smart yet. And then all the cave people start pulling out their guns. And one of the cave people hits a button to record their interaction. And then Johnny starts speaking in Cyclone saying, you're my prisoner now. You're going to get me a transport or I'm going to kill you. And then John Travolta and Forrest Whitaker are like, ha 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 ha, you dum-dums. You stole
through your teeth.
guns through my teeth. I'll say it. You don't store loaded weapons.
Which is correct. Thank you. That is a good example to set.
Yeah, but hold on. Did I get the delivery correct? Because that was really important to me.
You didn't have enough forehead in that conversation.
I guess I didn't.
I didn't hear you say leverage once.
I know.
No, you did good. You did good, babe.
So, so the guns aren't working. They don't have any bullets. Then John Travolta's like, well, I'm going to kill all your pals now, you little fucker. And Johnny's like, listen, if you kill my friends, I will never mine your gold for you. And you don't have time to train somebody else. And it'll fuck up your little plan.
I'm pretty sure it took him seconds to train Johnny.
Yeah, but he doesn't know that.
It's a good bluff then.
So as this movie goes on, Johnny figures out how to play a narcissist like almost immediately, and I'm impressed. It's kind of funny, especially for someone who's only just learning the nuances of the language.
I mean, to be fair, he also learned the nuances of all of history and knowledge. So
that's right. So he probably learned a little thing or two about psychology
and leverage.
So John Travolta's like, well, and there you have me, sir. But I'm going to show you something. So he chains up Johnny and takes him out into the city outside of the dome.
A nice little walkie.
Yeah, he takes him for a walk. He brings him to the public library.
Picked up his poop afterwards because, you don't want to leave it out there.
Because you have to do that. That would be disgusting. Never leave your poop laying around.
This is Denver. You clean it up. This is where I was like, this world is in amazing shape for 1,000 years later.
Yeah, it kind of looks like Fallout a little bit, but like in better shape.
A little Last of Us, a little Fallout, yeah.
Yeah, a little Stranger Things.
A tiny bit upside down,
Yeah. So this is where we get some of the backstory about the invasion.
The 9-second invasion.
The 9-minute invasion. he's like, with all of your advanced technologies and armies and blah, 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 it only took 9 minutes to defeat Earth because you all are stupid and unmotivated, basically. And he says, I'm going to leave you in this library. Read whatever you want because nothing's going to help you escape.
Which is interesting. If he doesn't have enough time to train someone else, he's going to leave this guy in a library to just read.
Right, for however long it is. I don't think it's that long, but long enough that Johnny's reading the Declaration of Independence when he comes back.
The first book I'd choose from, this dilapidated library.
Well, because apparently he can read the language. So listen, the thing that I don't understand is
he learned everything.
That's true, I guess. I guess that's true. Because my thought was, how does he understand English from 1,000 years ago? Because language changes over time, no matter what. Even if you're like, a tribe that has moved away, your language is going to change.
We even look at modern day, how challenging it is to read Shakespeare if you don't understand, the dialects, the language.
Well, reading Shakespeare translated is hard enough. Reading Shakespeare in the language it was originally written is nearly impossible unless you've had some training. So that's my thought. But when you say like, he learned everything, I guess that makes sense. I guess.
I'm going with magic machine. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's the only thing that works for this.
So he just magically knows everything. He's the smartest person in the world. Which
I didn't want to hurt my brain trying to rationalize it.
Which again is another Dune thing.
Oh, with Paul and his seeing past, present, future all at once.
Right. And also, like, if you've read further on, like Children of Dune, they know everything because they have all of the lives of every person ever lived that's even remotely connected to their bloodline inside of their brain. Like, and that's kind of what this is. And I'm like, oh, come on, you fucking Dune stealer.
Like, I like being smart, but I don't want to be like smart having to carry the burdens of all the people ever connected to my bloodline. That seems like a lot.
That's a whole other conversation because that's one of the things about Dune that is so interesting and poignant. But we'll move on because that is not this. So then John Travolta comes and picks him up from the library. And he takes Johnny and his pals out to a field where there's a bunch of cows. And he's saying, I'm the top marksman in my class. And if you try to run, I'm going to kill you. And then he starts shooting all the cows, trying to be a cool guy.
Like limbs off.
Yeah, just like shooting their legs off. So then at this very moment, some indigenous people come running out of the woods and they tackle John Travolta.
Fucking Braveheart, this shit.
Oh, and so Johnny gets a hold of John Travolta's gun. So can I just say, I don't know like who these people are. We never get their names. We only have their names, I think, because in the book they may have been named. But they were like Braveheart. They had like
I don't have their names.
I don't have them in this at all. I had just read some stuff and it was like, this is like Brown Fox Tom, or I don't know. That's not his name, but I just made that up.
Wow. Elron, come on. Not even trying to not be the worst.
So what I do want to say is that I read the synopsis of the book that this is based on. This is only based on the first half of the book, this movie, because obviously they didn't make a sequel. There was a planned sequel that they didn't make.
Oh, I wrote that at the end. I'm like, I guarantee they had a plan for a sequel. They thought this was going to be a big thing.
So in the book,
The Empire Strikes Back.
In the book, this whole mining situation takes place in Scotland. They fly them over to Scotland. And so these indigenous people that he runs into here are based upon those Scottish characters.
That explains the guy's headpiece.
It makes sense with like the face paint and everything. And then at this moment, we get into Johnny's Mel Gibson Braveheart speech. So,
oh God, yeah. So Braveheart.
He has Travolta's gun. He's pointing at Travolta. Everyone's yelling for him to kill him. And Travolta says, "You're toying with me before you kill me. I'm honored." And Johnny's like, "I'm not toying with you, dude. I don't kill. Like, we as humans don't kill to torture. We kill for food." Travolta's like, "Well, that's not true because humans hunted for sport before we came here. Like, you're the only animals that hunted for sport." And he's like, "Okay, whatever. It was like a throwaway line. And then
Yeah.
Johnny's like, listen, guys, I'm not going to shoot him because I don't want to live in fear. And I like, what about the people we left behind? We need to save them. We can't be on the run all the time. And then he starts saying to them, the cities and the lights in the sky are not gods. They were built by humans. Humans are, important and intelligent, and we had all these things, and we can get it back, and we have to go
We
back.
got this. We can do this.
When he's like, we have to go back. We got to go back to jail. We have to learn about their weapons. We have to learn about their machinery in order to save our people because the human race is going to die. And so he does this whole Mel Gibson speech, and he's like, and we got to fight. Are you with me? And they're all like, yeah. And then the indigenous.
Yeah, they joined him quickly.
Right, the leader's like, I'm on your side, buddy. And then they go back into the woods.
They just run back in the woods like, we're not going to jail. No.
And John Travolta's laying there the whole time like, what the fuck is happening? Because he doesn't understand their language.
So, Flar, in this movie, why didn't they use the learning machine to learn humans' language as their captors?
I had that same thought. And also, you've been there for 1,000 years. You should probably learn their language so that you know if they're trying to rebel against you, at the very least.
Plotting things at gunpoint right in front of you. Right. Plus, just hearing all the time, which is really annoying.
But here's where Johnny does this, like, ego stroke to John Travolta's character, which is, I think, is supposed to be funny. I think it's supposed to be a little bit funny. I don't know, because I'm confused by this movie.
I don't think this movie was supposed to be funny at all.
So it seems like it was supposed to be a little bit funny because John Travolta's like, why don't you shoot me? And he's like, well, surely someone of your masterful intelligence and skill would have stopped me somehow. You would have had some trick up your sleeve before I tried to kill you because you're so superior to me. And then hands his gun back to him. And Travolta takes it back and he's like, that's right, motherfucker. Of course I had a trick up my sleeve. Yeah, obviously. Totally. Definitely.
This was a test.
Yeah. Obviously didn't. But, and so like that becomes the dynamic of the two, which, okay, once or twice.
Yeah, the buddy cops.
Fine. But it happens like 4 times. And I'm like,
oh, God.
Just fucking stop, man. Just stop. It's ridiculous. So at this moment, Forrest Whitaker shows up.
There's still over an hour left in the movie.
I don't understand. But Forrest Whitaker shows up and he's like, hey, I found your girlfriend riding around looking for you because she has this cave painting picture of you that looks so much like you that we know it's you. Not any of these other guys with long hair. No. Because it's like a pencil drawing.
You.
So she has an explosive collar.
On like leather.
Yeah. In pencil or something.
Yeah.
So she has an explosive collar around her neck. And Travolta demonstrates what the collar could do by putting a different collar on one of the guys in his group. And so there's these 2 brothers that have been established. So he puts the collar on one of the brothers. And Johnny's like, please don't kill him. Like, please. Don't kill him. And he's like, fine, I won't kill your pal, but you can never ask me for anything ever again, which I thought was going to come to something, but it doesn't. And then he gives the remote to Forrest Whitaker and he's like, oh, well, I said I wouldn't, but I never said my buddy wouldn't. And so,
oh, he's the worst.
Right.
He's the worst.
So we're just getting more and more of like, okay, we know he sucks. We know he doesn't like, we know that he's constantly lying. So, okay, got it. We don't need 20 more scenes about it. So the one brother, he blows up and this becomes like a catalyst for other things that happen later.
For the climax of the movie.
Right. Now we're back in jail and Johnny's like sitting there crying and he's really upset. And all of his buddies are like, you did the right thing because living in cages is not living. And we're going to fight. And we all agreed. And it's okay, man. Don't worry about it. It's all good. And the unexploded brother is like, that's right. We're cool. So then Johnny is like, okay, man.
Have my hair.
He grabs the front of his hair and cuts his own hair and hands it to the brother. Everyone in jail starts yelling, I'm in. Yeah. Oh, they're all getting riled up like, oh, that guy over there. He knows stuff. We're going to follow him. And so Johnny rises up and now he has bangs. He has messy, ugly bangs.
Glorious bangs.
From where he cut his own hair. And I hate them.
Couldn't even.
Can't even. His hair just gets worse from here.
This movie is just a PSA for not cutting your own hair.
Although I've cut my own bangs a few times and they were fine. They looked beautiful until I
Yeah,
decided.
but you didn't prison rebellion cut your hair,
It's true. If I was going to prison rebel, I'd just shave it off. I'd go V for Vendetta.
right? Yeah. If you're going to prison rebel, don't delicately try to do bangs.
Although I don't know. I feel like doing your own bangs is more badass than shaving your head, right?
I mean, if all I've got is like this what was it? This piece of glass they gave him that no one ever took from him. Yeah.
He also has a knife strapped
no
to his
sense.
arm the entire time that nobody ever took from him
Yeah.
either. Well, because they're not threatened by it.
Dude, these psycholos do not fucking give a shit about their job
No.
guarding prisoners.
No, they're like, I'm not concerned about this guy who has a knife who's inciting riots. It's fine.
Yeah. Nah. We're fine.
So here we get like a really creepy scene where Travolta's wife shows up and she's his new secretary. So this is his real life wife.
Wait, no.
Kelly
What?
Preston.
Really?
Yeah.
He wanted her to look like that? Okay.
Yeah, and she has like a lizard tongue and they have like a little scheme and that's the scene. And apparently they wrote it together to be in the movie. I don't know. R.I.P. It turns out
shaking my head.
that the leader of the planet is keeping false records and he's been stealing money, which is why all the workers don't have the money they're supposed to have.
Yeah.
So
I wrote it down here. He is called the Planet Ship.
Oh, that's what he's called, the planet ship? Like your lordship, but he's your planet ship?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sure.
Often mistaken for ships that are also planets.
Mm. So Travolta has gotten this information from his secretary character wife. And
Tongue lady.
Yeah. And he says, the company requires that I vaporize you, but all you really need to do to stay alive is just share your authority with me. So basically making the planet ship a puppet and JT is in charge. So he can pretty much
carte blanche,
right. So he can pretty much do his whole mining scheme without any interference. And this is where the movie picks up a little bit because the movie plods along incessantly. But it's picked up.
I like that we're about to get into the where in the world is Carmen Sandiego section of the movie.
Yeah. Oh boy. That's a good description. It really is. So we get a little montage of Travolta teaching Johnny how to fly the spaceships in a flight simulator.
It's like full buddy cop.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous.
And it just seems like a bad idea. Like, you're teaching him how to use all of your weaponry and all of your technology just to get a little gold.
What is your end game here, John?
What do you think this guy's going to do? Like, he really feels like his leverage is gonna like stop this guy from saving humankind.
It's like giving away all your secrets. You don't tell your secrets to your enemy.
Right.
Be like, hey guys, here's how I like to flank armies. See you on the battlefield tomorrow.
Travolta just keeps talking about leverage, blah blah blah.
So many patsies in this movie.
He drops off all the cave people at the mining operation and he says in 14 days you're coming back and you need to have a ship filled with gold and I have cameras and they're watching you. And the cameras never come back into play because he's obviously not watching them from what we see here.
No, it flies over like a Zeppelin every now and again.
So what happens is Johnny takes all of his buddies into a really strategically placed cave that happens to be there. And he says, listen, we're going to pretend to be mining, but actually we're going to go to this place, Fort Knox, that I found when I was at the library.
Learning everything.
Right. They have a bunch of gold and we're just going to get all the gold from there and we're going to give it to them. We're going to give them a little bit of that gold.
We're going to focus building our army and getting ready to rebel.
Right. So Johnny's new bangs are killing me in this scene. He's got his hair pulled back in like a man bun and a braid is like sticking out haphazardly and his bangs are a hot mess. Get it together, girl.
I want to start going around as my Tinder profile is Johnny New Bangs.
It sounds like you're going to have some pretty gross spam.
Sorry, Grinder profile.
Yeah.
Why is everyone swiping left?
So here's where we get some more exposition. So Johnny and Tig fly to Washington, D.C., and they go to the Library of Congress.
Again, if you hadn't trained him how to fly,
Right.
none of this is an issue.
He goes from Denver to Washington, D.C. I don't know where he's getting all this fuel from, but whatever.
Well, it's a alien ship. It's magic.
Oh, that's right. It's in what's the word? It never ending fuel.
Infinite.
Infinite.
Yes, an infinite supply.
Infinite fuel.
Of science fuel.
Right. So apparently when the Cyclos originally attacked, the human survivors escaped by running toward irradiated areas, and that's how they survived, even though radiation is poisonous to humans, as he says next.
It's not great.
So the Cyclos couldn't get close because of their explosive breath, so they just kind of like fucked off. And so Johnny's like, listen.
Sorry, that's a sentence you said. That's actually part of this movie. They couldn't get close because their explosive breath. Oh, fucking hell, Ron.
So then Johnny is like, so
hey, Elron. All right, they need a weakness. What do you got? They got poopy breath. Nah, poopy breath doesn't work. What if it blows up? Yeah, all right, okay.
Poop explosion breath. Never said how it blows up.
You got anything else? Nope, that's the answer.
I got magical aliens that make you not be nice to people.
If you want to know more, it's going to be $100 for the next level.
$100? That's nothing.
It's the early level. These are early levels.
It's like level 1. Got it. Like level 1A. And there's 20.
Yeah. First level's free.
Right.
As long as your thetons or whatever they are within the range.
Hold on to this metal stick, and I'm going to measure.
Hold these rock'em sock'em robots. We're going to do a quick test.
I'm going to measure how many aliens are in your body.
Yeah, if blue wins, you're not acceptable. But if red wins, all right, you can join.
For the low price of $500,000.
Yeah, and your dignity.
Oh, and say goodbye to your family, too. Fuck them.
Yeah, unless they have money, then bring them on down.
Right.
We'll get tested, too. Do you know Will Smith? Just check it. You get a discount.
Are you friends or family of Leah Remini? You're out.
Yeah. Oh, she's a problem. Yeah. Thought we had her. We were wrong.
Okay.
Sometimes you go fishing, you think you got it. Yeah, I didn't have that one.
Okay.
All right. Anyways.
All right. Well, coming back from that.
I don't know how you come back from that.
Same.
Scientology, that is.
And this movie.
Well, that's true.
So Johnny basically says, like, all right, we're all living in irradiated areas. We're going to wind up we're going to wind up all dying in the next, few years anyway. So we might as well just, go for it.
Getting some fighter jets.
So next thing we know, we're at Fort Knox. And this movie's beyond anything I could have possibly imagined. Oh, God.
I mean, how could you? You couldn't. You could pull random sentences out of a random sentence generator, and it would make more sense than this movie.
Well, here's the thing. When the movie started, and I was confused, I'm like, okay, there's cave people living in a cave in the year 3000, and there's some aliens. If you would have told me you're going to end up at Fort Knox and Fort Hood,
and then Fort Hood, yeah,
I would have been like, fuck you, you're lying. So yeah, there's a gold vault in Fort Knox. They're going to give half to the Cyclos and then hide the other half.
Because they need gold?
Right. At the back of the mining operation, Travolta shows up. Apparently, it's been 14 days, and he sees the bars of gold.
This is where, again, Travolta is so fucking dumb. That's why I think he's the dumbest of them.
Right, but also, here was my thought, too. I'm like, they're giving it to him in bars? Isn't he gonna know?
Gold bars.
Isn't he gonna know that they're full of shit?
Nah, he's a dumbass.
So he shows up and he sees the bars of gold and he goes, why is it in bars? And Johnny's like, well, because you're so refined and wonderful. I just assumed that you were not going to be cool with us giving you the raw ore. So we smelted it down into the bars for you.
All right. First thing I would say is, let me see your smelting operation real quick.
Right. So Travolta's like,
Travolta's just like,
he's like, that's right, motherfucker. I am super refined.
Yeah.
I'll be back in 7 days for the rest of it. And Johnny's like,
since you have
cool.
time to smelt it.
Right.
And Johnny's like, thanks, you didn't check out any of my lies.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Great job.
Fucking just like they don't guard their prisoners, they don't fact check.
Oh man. So now they're back in their cave to plot, and Johnny, with his man bun and bad bangs, is explaining how, all right, we got 7 days to take the planet back because they cut our days down. So we only got 7 now, guys.
How Johnny got his groove back.
Tig's gonna blow up the dome and let all of the Earth air in so the Cyclos die because they won't be able to breathe.
Because they won't be wearing their masks. Makes sense. That checks out.
That's smart. And so he's like coming up with this whole plot, and the only thing I could do was look at his bangs and his hair, and I hated it so much. And here's where I recognized I was like, oh shit, I know who he is.
I like the cockiness in this plan because they're like, we're not only going to do that, we're going to then blow up their home world so they can't send anyone else. I was like, dude, you guys have been hiding in caves for 1,000 years. Maybe just like, get free first. Ambitious, but
listen, if you have all the knowledge of the entire universe,
all right, fair.
You just take it there. You push the limit.
Yeah, but when you're the only one does, and the rest of your group is a ragtag bunch of the Sandlot,
dude, they're not even the Sandlot. They're like
they're not even.
They're like Hercules the dog. They have like a very rudimentary understanding of this world. They just have opposable thumbs, so they're useful.
But you know what they do have? The ability to learn quickly.
Very quickly, things. Right. So Johnny's like, we're going to go to Texas. We're going to get some bombs. We're going to Fort Hood.
Of course it's in Texas.
That's it. That's exactly what I wrote. I wrote, sounds about right. So they go in. They're like in an underground bunker. They find tanks, assault rifles. Everything is totally still in working order. There's electricity. The bullets work. The gas is working and everything. Like,
I think I know why we lost in 9 minutes because we didn't use any of our weapons. Right. They're all in perfect condition underground.
Right, but I mean, we left them fully fueled and in some sort of state that they lasted for 1,000 years impeccably.
We even left the flight simulator plugged in.
Right.
We're so considerate.
With the electricity on.
Also, if you told me we were going to get 2 different flight simulators in this movie, I would have been like, that makes no sense.
Right. So here we have our second flight simulator situation. He's like, hey guys, you have 7 days to learn how to fly these jets over here. And it's the fake Scottish people. And they're like, we're good. We got it. We're on it. No worries.
We've been living in the woods.
Right.
For thousands of years?
At least 1,000.
At least 1,000. There might, yeah.
And they hunt cows with sticks.
I wrote at this point, I'm so mad I'm still watching this movie.
Yeah, well, here's where I wrote, sure, whatever.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. I didn't even question that the guy got in and was acting like he understood how a flight simulator worked.
He's like, oh yeah, cool. This isn't stressing me out in any way whatsoever. We're good.
No, this is totally my skill ability to adapt to this.
I'm not afraid of this in any way. It's cool. I've only been living in a tree for the last 1,000 years. So at this point, still at Fort Hood, they find a nuclear bomb. And Johnny...
A fancy nuclear bomb.
Yeah, it's like a warhead, basically. And so Johnny comes and somehow knows how to remove the core.
He knows everything, babe.
That's right. I know. I keep forgetting that he knows everything ever. It's a great plot device, really.
It really helps you smooth over the fact that this is insanity.
Sure, whatever.
It's necessary.
He removes the core very delicately and with great precision. And he's like, we're going to take this. We're going to teleport it to the Cyclos planet from their teleportation pad. When it explodes, it's going to react with their atmosphere and it's going to kill everybody. And so the remaining non-exploded brother is how I refer to him the rest of the time. He says, I'm going to be the one to do it. I want to do it because Johnny, you're too important. Like, you can't do that.
Absolutely true.
I need to avenge my brother. And I'm like, that's, you know what? Yeah.
Most logical decision in this movie.
Yeah, that's how I would have written that. And so I have to say, that from here on, it gets very
Mhm.
ridiculous. But a lot of the decisions that are made by the cave indigenous people,
The Manimals.
the manimals,
Mhm.
are things that I'm like, yeah, yeah, okay. I don't hate that.
For the most part, the last chunk of this movie is at least
Right,
watchable-ish,
right.
and if you put aside the fact that they got to where they are and the
Yes,
skills and abilities are what they are, you go, okay, at least this kind of works a little
right.
bit.
In about a month, he's trained
Mhm.
an elite
7
squad.
days. 7
Well, no, because
days.
they had 14 days before that.
Oh, I hear what you're saying. So after 14 days, he came for the gold, and then they have 7 more to get the rest out of the entire mountain. Got it.
Right. So,
Gotcha. Dude, in 21 days, you can form a habit, and a habit, I guess, could be training an entire indigenous population to take
to
over the
be
world.
an elite squad of fighting
Yeah,
machines. Yeah, sure.
checks out. Time
Whatever.
frame works.
So then we have this weird scene where John Travolta's hiding the gold in a frozen dead body thing.
I assumed it was just him, like, stealing it for himself, and they were just showing that.
Yeah. Uh, so I actually, in the plot synopsis for the book, it goes way more in
Mhm.
depth, and basically he's like murdering people. He's murdering Cyclos on his planet
Mhm.
and sending them back to the planet Cyclos in like these gold, like with gold in them, so that he can dig them up later and have take the gold for himself.
Sure.
And so it makes sense,
Would
like,
have liked a little bit of that information in the movie if they're
right,
gonna
because
do
I'm
that,
like,
but
why
this
is he putting it with a dead body? I don't get it.
dude, you mean there's a Snyder cut where this movie's longer?
No, I'm talking about the book.
No, I'm saying, like, because they shot it that way, that means at some point you think they shot something that explained that.
I don't think
Or
so.
did they?
Probably not. So here, this is a strange scene. So Johnny
Mhm,
and his buddies are all supposed to be out at this mining operation. It's
mhm.
nighttime. Johnny shows up at the jail at night,
Yeah,
and he approaches Forrest Whitaker, who's like, "What the fuck are you doing here? You're supposed to be at the mine. What is going on?"
I will take a moment to say he was my favorite character in this movie, Forrest Whitaker.
He's my favorite character usually in most things. I
Mhm.
love him.
Yep.
He's very good. He also can be like eternally frustrating, but it's because he's good. I'm thinking of his
Yeah.
character from The Shield. Ugh. So good, so bad, so good.
I'm thinking of his character from Battlefield Earth, a saga of the year 3000.
And I have once we're done talking about this, I'll tell you some more trivia that I know about his character.
Okay.
So Johnny says to Forrest Whitaker, "Listen, John Travolta has leverage over you. He's never going to share the gold with you."
Leverage.
Leverage. Johnny's
Sorry.
like, "I found all of the recordings that he made of you and other stuff in his personal vault, and I will trade you
Mhm.
the disc to take the explosive off my lady friend's neck." And Forrest Whitaker is like, "Fuck that shit." But then Johnny makes this big show and everybody in the jail
Oh,
starts
yeah. They play a
reacting.
game of telephone with the holodisc, and
Right. So then Forrest Whitaker realizes, like, oh, I have no power here. And so he makes the trade and he winds up
Mhm.
releasing everyone in the jail and taking the explosive off of Candy, Carrie, Cassie, Katie. What's her name?
Christy.
Chrissy's neck. So that happens. They're all released.
So they share a moment. Johnny, and Chrysanthemum, and she looks at him and she's like, the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, and makes no sense that she could ever possibly have thought this. She goes, I always knew this was going to be your destiny.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry.
So wait, she always knew that he was going to get kidnapped and then held in a
hmm
prison and then force fed
hmm
all the knowledge of the known universe and then stage
hmm
a gigantic rebellion and
hmm
save the world.
In the process, she was also going to get captured, have an
Hmm.
explosive device put around her neck, and he was going to barter for her freedom and the release of that. Yeah, that's what she always knew. She always knew.
Hey, listen. In the context of this movie, I buy it.
Yeah, all right, checks out. We've got someone who knows all the knowledge of the universe after a couple days. Yeah, all right, I'm with it.
Right. Now we have a scene with Whitaker and Travolta. They're in the control room. Forrest Whitaker's drinking some of this pea beer that they drink out of bongs, it looks like, the entire movie, which
Yes, they
we haven't
do.
mentioned.
Yeah, we'll put a picture up. It's ridiculous.
It's called like Kablamo or something. I don't remember what it's called, but that's what I'm calling it.
Kablamo!
But it's like
by Slugs McKenzie.
It does look like Slurm.
It's Slurm. It's 100% Slurm. Yeah.
And it's in a bong, and it kind of has like a pea color to it. It's like Slurm with a pea color.
So one of the jokes we forgot to mention before this is Forrest Whitaker is referred to. He has 5 wives earlier in the movie.
Yeah, he's made the reference a couple times. So he's watching one of the videos of Travolta that the cave people had taken, where he's like ranting about his plan, basically. And Travolta comes in the middle of it, and he's like, "Oh, my student, I'm so proud of you. You finally figured out leverage.
Good job." Yeah.
And Forrest Whitaker's like, "Okay, whatever." And so they're kind of like trash talking each other. And Forrest Whitaker is like, "I'm gonna have so much money, I can fire my 5 wives. Maybe I'll get some new ones that are
pretty ones.
That are pretty."
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, this guy. This is an award-winning actor. It's like,
yeah.
Huh.
His paycheck had a few zeros in it. Let's just leave it at that.
Right. So then Whitaker says, "I made a copy of the video, so you can't kill me." And then Travolta does this whole thing, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out the bartender's the one who had the copy, and he cut off his head.
Which happened to be in the room waiting for him to pick it out of a box.
Right. So then he shoots off Forrest Whitaker's hand, and he says, "Get me the original copy of that disc, and then meet me at the teleporter, you motherfucker," basically.
Yeah.
And so that's the end of that. Meanwhile, the humans are all out of jail taking out the guards.
And there's 3 hours left in the movie.
750 hours left in this movie.
50 cycles, and we have an option to renew indefinitely.
So basically, it's coming down to Johnny with the nuclear cores, or whoever with the nuclear cores, is going to wind up on the teleportation pad at the same time as Travolta, right?
Mhm.
That's what it's coming down to.
Yeah.
That's the only prediction that I made that made sense, that actually kind of came true. So,
yeah.
Thank you, movie. So then Tig is flying one of the spaceships. Johnny's going around shooting motherfuckers. All the I keep calling them cave people. That's just whatever. They're the humans.
The manimals.
The manimals. They all have like walkie-talkies. They're going around killing all the guards. They're running around. They're breaking free.
They're vandalizing.
Right. There's this moment. So when I first recognized Barry Pepper, I was like, oh, he was in like Black Hawk Down or something, right? Yeah, sure. And then in this moment, I remembered it was actually Saving Private Ryan, because the Klingons are chasing him and they're shooting at him. And
oh my God, that scene.
Slow motion, like 3-minute long scene of him just running with the slow motion bullets and dust and
like
dirt.
Matrix-esque.
It was Saving Private Ryan.
It was, yeah.
I was like, oh, so did they just like lift this from Saving Private Ryan?
1,000%.
Is this an homage?
They're like, we really liked you in that scene. We're going to do it again.
Like, hey, guy, you were great in that movie. How about we do a callback?
Dude, and it goes on for like a minute and a half.
Like at least 2 minutes, like very long. And he's just literally dodging bullets. And I keep saying literally because this movie, things happen that are inexplicable. And I have to say that they're literal.
Yeah, the guards are stormtroopers because they can't hit shit.
Yeah, it was so strange. And so this whole thing is happening in the middle of the action, which happens so many times in this movie. Like, you start to have a little action, and then suddenly you have like slow motion or some like weird fucking thing happen, and it stops the action in its tracks.
Oh, it's bizarre.
It's very weird.
And because, yeah, so you have like 8 things going on. You have Johnny trying to get the guy to the teleporter. You have his girlfriend and the rebels, like you said, vandalizing. You have Trey setting up a bomb on top of the dome.
Trey?
And then you also have
Tig.
Trey.
Tig.
Sorry, Tig. Trey. Yeah, sure, Trey. Tig setting up the bomb on top of the dome. And then you also have John Travolta cutting in and out, like flying a spaceship, doing something.
Right. He's trying to get to the teleporter. So
Yeah.
as he's flying to the teleporter, like someone comes on the radio, they're like, "Hey boss, the humans escaped and they're kind of like getting into shit." And he's like, "Don't bother me with every little detail.
Yeah.
Figure it out."
You do it. Oh my God.
Wow. Lumpy space princess, simmer down. So now Tig is about to blow the dome, and the cyclos are coming in to round everybody up. And so there's all this like chaos, blah, blah, blah. There's some more slow motion and explosions. I'm just confused. Tig is like, "Guys, I really need to blow something up. Like, this is ridiculous."
John is like, we're not quite at the teleporter. We need to get him so
Right.
that, because once the dome blows, they're going to call in all their reinforcements and teleport him in. So they need to make sure it lines up.
Right. And so here's where we establish that Tig has a missile launcher because he's taking out a ship, which is awesome. And so
good.
this scene made me laugh so hard.
Oh my God, I laughed out loud. Out loud.
I was actually cackling at this scene. So he takes out the missile launcher because he's defending his position.
Yeah, he's on top of the dome.
Right. He shoots at one of the spaceships that are coming at him because he's outside of the dome. Let's make that clear.
Yeah.
So he's outside. He had planted explosives. And so one of the bad guys' spaceships is coming at him. So he shoots at it with the missile launcher. He misses. And the missile.
It's heat seeking.
Yeah, it's heat seeking. So it comes back and explodes. And he's like, "Ha ha, yeah." But then another one comes down behind him that he didn't initially
two
see.
come down.
Yeah, like a couple of them. And he turns around and there's a few of them. And then at that moment, suddenly, like the Birdmen in Flash Gordon, we have our indigenous jet fighters to the rescue. It was exactly like that moment with Brian Blessed as the head of the Birdmen, flying in like, "We're here to save you."
I had a Middle Earth Helm's Deep kind of feel.
A little bit of that, but mostly the Birdmen. That's all I could see.
It's 7 days and Flight Simulator, and we can save the day. Oh, it was so great.
And these guys are fucking Maverick and Iceman. It's ridiculous.
Oh, dude, they can operate the shit out of these planes. You just got to go with it because it was the best thing.
As this is happening, the leader of these indigenous people, I realized, because he has face paint and wild hair, I'm like, wait. Is that the bad guy dad from Kindergarten Cop? And then I Googled it later, and it is.
Oh, I didn't make that poll.
I love that movie. I've seen it many times. So yeah, he was Dominic's dad from Kindergarten Cop.
This movie's got a little bit of everybody
It really does. And so now we get actual Top Gun is happening.
Yeah.
So there's a jet fighter like dogfight. It's just shooting explosions, and it's actually Top Gun, you guys. It is Top Gun.
See, I'd say it's Nightmare at Noon.
I was actually really tempted to fast forward, but I'm really glad I didn't because Kindergarten Cop dad, he ran out of ammo. So he ejects from his plane and lets his plane fly straight into the final spaceship.
Yeah.
That was
kamikaze finisher.
And explosion. And I was like, great. That's a hero move, and I fucking like it. I like it.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed. I let my mind accept it, and I enjoyed the fighter pilot.
So did he live?
Even though I wrote this is preposterous, I
thought I saw him later.
He might have been in later on. I think he was in that final culmination.
I think so too, which is sort of inexplicable, but sure.
I need him in the sequel because he was delightful.
We're going to talk about that after this. Okay, so.
This is where I wrote again in my notes. This still feels like a terrible video game plot.
It really does.
Like what's happening? Like this level where all of a sudden
it's like things just keep coming at you, and you have to keep entering the codes and doing puzzles. Like, oh no, you're not quite done yet. You got one more rock to move.
Just kidding. You open the door, and inside there's another door.
Yeah.
And it's got a death machine inside.
So he's about to teleport the bomb.
And there are 20 minutes left.
And Tig is like, I'm blowing this now because The Klingons are here and they're wrecking the bombs. So Johnny
Yeah.
says, blow it. And then at that moment, Travolta arrives and turns off the teleportation device because, of course,
Because he's such a dick.
because he's the worst. So the explosions start across the dome. It doesn't break, it just cracks everywhere. And so Tig is in his plane flying. And so my assumption is, oh, he's just going to crash into the dome and break it, right?
Yep.
He's going to kamikaze it, which doesn't happen yet. So then Travolta then gets on the PA and makes an announcement to the city, exterminate all the humans at will. So now it's like a full-on firefight. And so everyone's just shooting everyone. And I wrote, holy fuck, does this movie ever end? It has like 10 different endings. It just keeps almost ending over and over.
Like I said, there are 20 minutes left still in this movie.
So at this moment, here comes Tig with his hero move. And goddamn, I love this guy. So his name is,
I do too.
His name is Kim Coates. Because I wrote at this point, I said, God damn, I love this guy. I have to Google him. Wait, his name is Kim Coates. I knew that off the top of my head. That's like my stream of consciousness in my voice notes. So he's great. I love him. He's just like a wild man, like in anything he's ever been in. He's got like fucking crazy eyes and he's awesome.
Dude, I didn't think he was gonna, when we first met him way back at the mini golf course, I didn't expect him to be here this whole movie.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna be a red shirt.
I'm so glad he was.
Yeah. So he's probably my favorite character in the whole movie.
Favorite manimal, absolutely.
He's the most interesting-ish. He has the most sort of, nobody has character development at all, but he's got a little bit of it.
And he's got a bazooka.
And he's got a missile launcher. And at this moment, he's like, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm getting this shit done. So he directs his plane, dive bombs into the dome. It breaks, but he's stuck in it. And so he's just hanging there. So the front of his plane fell off. So he's just kind of hanging from his seatbelts and he's able to look down into the city. He's seeing like the chaos that's happening beneath him, like everyone dying and everything. Then he looks over and he sees all the explosives around him that had been planted. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to end this. And he takes out his missile launcher.
This movie was a PSA for seatbelts. Without him, this you're not going to save your species.
This wouldn't happen, right?
Yeah.
He takes out his missile launcher. He shoots it into the explosives.
Oh, so good.
What is probably my favorite moment of the movie because I love him and I love that he's the hero. Like he's one of the two heroes. Like he's awesome.
He's the better hero. Yeah.
Well, no, the second hero the hero moment hasn't come yet for me.
True.
I'll tell you in a minute what that is. Because what the second hero I'm referring to is not our protagonist.
It's not our main guy.
Right.
No.
So explosions, the dome breaks open, the entire dome falls apart, which at this point, the glass just starts falling on everybody. And I was like, did they not plan for this? Because it's very dangerous.
I wrote the same thing. I'm like, this dome collapse is good for no one right now.
Everybody dies.
So interesting thing, they talk about their explodey breath. We don't see any explodey breath moments when the dome collapses. I was kind of bummed out.
Because there's no radiation. They just can't breathe the air.
Oh, okay. So they just choke. Okay, gotcha.
That's what the dome was doing. Yeah, the dome was like their atmosphere.
So they just suffocate. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I wanted explosions.
That would have been way better. But can't have it all, I guess.
This movie tried.
It really did. We had almost all. So after the dome falls, Travolta turns on the teleporter and he calls the home planet and he's like, initiate the gas, whatever, to kill everybody on Earth. I don't remember what it's called.
Oh, yeah. It's like some sort of gas droids or something that comes and like wipes out
everything. They mentioned it like once or twice, but they never really explained what it was. And so I was just like, okay, whatever.
It doesn't matter.
It's probably in the book explained. So
this is where I wrote in my notes, finally, just it crossed my mind. It's like, you know what? If Travolta doesn't teach this guy everything, none of this movie happens. We've discussed it before, but like there's just moments here really reiterated to me like, dude, you caused all your own problems by your hubris and your
ego,
your bad choices. Ego. Yes, that's what I wanted.
Yep. So here we have Travolta and Johnny. They're fighting each other. They're near the teleportation pad. The unexploded brother, or who kind of looks like Bon Jovi, he is on the teleportation pad with the nuclear device.
Sneaking.
Johnny takes a piece of the explosive collar that had been on Chrissy earlier, and he sticks it to Travolta's arm, which he apparently doesn't notice.
Yeah.
And then Travolta's like, "Where's my gold?" Ah, he's like the leprechaun. And Johnny
Fucking pirate. Yeah.
and Johnny says, "I'll trade you the gold for my lady friend's life." And Travolta's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Now I'm gonna explode her." And Johnny's like, "I wouldn't do that if I were you." So he uses his ego against him again to like trick him.
Mhm.
So much for hating psychiatrists, because all you're doing is giving us all of the psychiatry here, buddy. So then he pushes the button and his whole
God.
arm explodes, but there's no blood.
Boop.
There's no blood.
And
It's
he
just
doesn't
like,
feel pain.
no, and he's just standing there like, "Oops, I guess I don't have an arm."
Yeah, like when Forrest Whitaker's hand got blown off,
Right.
he didn't react at all. He's just like,
He was
"Oh,
like, "Oh man,
shucks.
I don't have a hand." So
Now I'm
that's
gonna buy a new wife hand."
this is a whole other thing that I'm confused about. Like, do they not die?
Yeah.
Like, unless they're shot with a laser in the chest? I don't know.
Or a nuclear bomb.
Right. So just then, the teleportation device takes Mickey, who's the name of the unexploded Bon Jovi
Bon
brother,
Jovi.
takes him to the Cyclos planet with his nuclear bomb. So, okay, this moment, Ian, he's sitting on the pad, the teleportation pad.
Mhm.
He's hugging the bomb, and you
Mhm.
see the Cyclos behind him coming, and they're laughing.
Yeah, they're like, "What were you
You
doing?"
see two perfect little tears come out of his eyes as he detonates the
Mhm.
bomb, and I was like, "Oh my god, I think I love this
Yep.
moment." It was like it came full, it was like a full circle,
Mhm.
perfect, like, revenge moment, like hero moment.
Dude, and that planet goes up like it was shot by the Death Star.
Oh yeah, like in seconds, the uranium reacts with the atmosphere and the entire planet explodes into nothing, but not
Yeah.
just nothing, like actually nothing, which is not what would happen. But I think we're just gonna let that go. Let's just let that go.
I think we've talked in some conversations past about science in movies, and
We
this one you gotta pretend there's no
we
science.
can't get into the physics and like black holes and
Mm.
stuff right now, because it's just too
No.
much. Too much.
No, and matter taking different forms. Yeah.
Yeah. We're just gonna let it go. Y'all know. Just know that that's not what would happen.
Yeah.
So all the humans then meet in the desert to be sad about their losses and to celebrate their wins.
It's like a really sad version of the end of Star Wars where they're given the medals. It's just like, oh, we're all sad in the desert.
Except they're like happy, but they're sad. And
Yeah.
sad and happy. So then Chrissy and Johnny, because that would totally be people's names in the year 3000, reunite and have a moment where they start making out, because sure, why the fuck not?
And they're like, we'll have children. We'll name them Stacy and Todd.
Right. We're going to name them Brock and Karen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God damn it. Karen's in the year 3000.
So then so then we have another scene where Johnny is at Fort Knox. He has Travolta locked in a cage in the gold vault.
I kind of like that.
And when he's asked why he doesn't kill him, Johnny says, "There are other cyclo colonies, and I need some leverage."
Leverage.
Leverage.
The student manimal has become the master manimal.
And that's pretty much exactly how John Travolta said it, right?
But I think he said more like, the student animal has become the master.
Yeah, but he's not like sinister like that. He's more like, the
Dude, I can't do
student.
accents, let
Yes.
alone
Ugh.
try to do accents through teeth held in place.
And also like the weird non-accent he was trying to use.
Yeah, whatever John Travolta did in this movie, I don't even know if he called it an accent. It was just kind of a performance, I guess.
So then Johnny says, "I have the recording showing that you're the one who betrayed your planet, and you're the one responsible for your entire planet dying. And so the bounty on your head is going to be enormous. So
Yeah.
they're not gonna be mad at me. So it's all good."
No.
So then Forrest Whitaker shows up, and John Travolta's like, "Ha, kill them!" And Forrest Whitaker hands Johnny one of the laser guns. He's like, "Oh, I figured out what's wrong with it." And he's like, "Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
Travolta, you're a dick. Fuck you. I'm teaching them about the cyclo technology, and they made me the head cyclo." And I'm like, what is that? The only cyclo.
I actually thought earlier in the movie, I was like, Either Forrest Whitaker's going to get killed by Travolta, or he's going to be the one who comes out on top.
No, that was actually what I thought
Yeah.
too. I thought he was gonna
Yeah.
was gonna kind of backstab him and wind up switching sides.
And in the sequel, I really hope he and Travolta have a knife
with each with their one arm.
one arm knife fight. One arm, one hand. We got this. Give him pool noodles.
The best part of this interaction is that Forrest Whitaker says, "Well, you finally got all your gold," and just leaves him there in the bunker filled with gold. And that's the end of the movie.
And it cuts to black. Yeah.
And I wrote, "That's the end, and oh my goodness."
I wrote right here, they absolutely thought they're getting a sequel as this movie
for
ended.
sure. So
holy shit.
Let me just say that I'm still a little.
Let's take a second to breathe.
I was going to say I don't think I still have processed this movie.
No.
So I read the synopsis of the book. And so after this part, there's this whole other thing where basically it turns out that the cyclo colonies that they mentioned that are all over the universe, they didn't realize that their home planet had been vaporized, basically. So what they were doing, and it wasn't vaporized, it was just like blown up and destroyed and like
removed from existence.
It was still there. It was just destroyed. It just was like uninhabitable. Yeah. So they were still trying to teleport in. And so when they would teleport in and then come back, they would bring particles of the uranium or whatever with them. And so then it would cause wherever they were to explode and then they would all die. So what happened was it wound up wiping out all of the cyclo colonies across the universe inadvertently. So the only cyclos left were the ones on Earth. And there's only a few of them, including the Forrest Whitaker one. And it turns out that they all were sterilized after, like before they left the planet, so that they couldn't like reproduce with any other creatures, I guess. I don't know.
'Cause reasons.
So they figure out, oh shit, once these people all die, there'll be none left and they'll be extinct. And that's like the whole grand whatever. But on top of that, there's a whole
goes around, comes around.
There is an entire subplot that has to do with like economics and contracts and ownership of planets and money lending and exchanging. And I'm like,
I'm sorry. If I want good political sci-fi, I'm going to read Foundation and Asimov.
I'm going to read Dune.
Not reading L. Ron Hubbard.
I'm going to read Dune.
Sorry, none of you are the Jackal.
Right. Forrest Whitaker character in the book, Kerr, he is...
Sure.
They say he's like a runt, kind of. He's only 7 feet tall instead of 9 feet tall like the rest of them. And he's not as evil as the rest of them. He tries really hard to be evil, but he just can't muster the evilness.
You know, it's just so hard to commit atrocities these days. I just feel so bad about it.
So that is like one of the things that I was reading in the book. And so if they were to do a sequel, though, like it would be so fucking boring. Like nothing happens except they figure out that all the cyclos are dead and the world, the other places in the universe come and they're like, you owe us money, not we're going to kill you and exterminate your planet. They're like, you owe us money because we own the planet. We have a contract, blah, 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 blah. Like,
so my favorite thing is the first piece of trivia on IMDb for this movie is Forrest Whitaker expressed his regret for participating in this movie.
He is one of many people who have expressed their regret for participating in this movie.
Yeah.
Apparently there were multiple screenplays. Like the original screenplay looked nothing like this one, and the guy who wrote the original was credited in the movie. And he didn't even want to be on the credits, but they were paying him like more money than he could turn down. And he was like, I guess whatever. It was like a SAG thing.
This really kind of explains John Travolta more to me, how he referred to this film as the Schindler's List of science fiction films.
I did read that.
That is quite a statement. Did he say it in character? Because his character absolutely would make a statement like that.
Well, listen, a lot of what I read was, so he's a producer on this movie and he used some of his own money to bankroll it. He cut his fee from like 20 million to 10 million. And it still took up like a large portion of the budget. And he's, you know, because that's just who he is.
What an egalitarian he is.
So a lot of it seemed very self-serving. A lot of it was to preserve the Hubbard legacy because this was like L. Ron Hubbard's favorite book of his, and he wanted it to be made in a movie, but then he died before he could. And because I was reading about the book, and so Travolta took it up as like this cause and was like, I got to make it, but nobody wanted to touch it because Scientology and because it's like not very good. And so one of the reasons I was reading that it's
Mhm.
such like it was like a bestseller and blah 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 and whatever. It came out years later that Scientology, they deny this, but that
Mhm.
Scientology, like they had issued an edict basically like, hey, everyone needs to go out and mass buy this book. Like you have to go buy like 20 copies a piece because it needs to become a bestseller. And so the reason why it became a bestseller was because the
Mhm.
Scientologists were like buying it in bulk. So it's,
There you go.
and most people who read it are like, it's fine. It's fine. It's like a sci-fi book. It's fine. But it's not a classic, like wonderful, excellent, you know, some of the stuff we have on our bookshelves kind of book. Listen, we also have like one about like an evil space dentist or something. So, there are
True.
those. And this I think is on that level.
Hey,
But it just didn't
you do
have the
not make fun
marketing.
of Codger Space. That is a wonderful, wonderful book. Alan Dean Foster does not deserve your chagrin.
I'm
So,
kidding.
what's interesting about this movie is, it is known. Anyone listening, you probably have known this movie is known as like one of the worst films ever
Mhm.
made. This movie actually has made money. It has to the point where it's made over 150 million. Now it's taken time.
Well, it probably has now, yeah, after 20 years.
No, I was just reading on it. It's taken time, but it's made money. The director was actually saying, like, it's one of his 2 films to actually make money for him. I mean, when it originally released, it was a $73 million budget, and it made 29 million in box office the first year.
It actually wasn't $73 million because I read another bit of
Oh, you're
trivia
right.
where the financing company lied about the budget and they wound up getting sued to the point where they had to
Oh
shut
boy,
down. So the budget was only like 40 million.
and it still didn't make that back in
Right.
its box office
No.
initial
I
run.
think
Yeah,
I think it made back like half of it. But so point is that this movie is widely renowned as being a shit show, hot mess, disaster.
correctly.
Which I mean I would agree with that for the most part because aside from
Yeah,
like the last 15 minutes which I didn't totally hate.
yeah. Do you like this, Sam?
Oh god, no, dude, no. Listen, but I do have to say it's one of those movies where I'm like, but you should just watch it.
Yes.
It's so shitty. It's like Toxic Avenger. Like no, Toxic Avenger is way more entertaining. I don't know. They're both
Yeah.
pretty bad in a different way. This movie is such garbage in so many ways, but it's hysterical to watch. Like watching all of the elements of this movie, like the kiss
Hmm.
boots and the dreadlock bouffants and
The
the
bangs.
bangs, the evolving bangs, Barry's evolving bangs.
You just need to see this. I agree with you. I don't like this movie.
No,
I,
it's
I mean, and I love bad sci-fi. Like that's my dude. This isn't even that. This is just atrocious. But it's fascinating.
my biggest problem with this movie isn't the things that I usually have a problem with in a lot of the movies that you bring me. My problem with this movie is that it thinks that it is highbrow,
Hmm.
like super innovative, intelligent, etc.
Oh, it's pompous. This movie is very pompous.
It's so pompous and egotistical. Like it is doing what the villains of the movie have done. You know what I mean?
This movie is John Travolta's character. Yeah.
I think John Travolta, I don't know him personally. I don't really know a whole lot about him except for
What?
Danny
You have
Zuko,
misled me, madam.
except for that he's Danny Zuko and some other stuff.
Yeah, in Pulp Fiction. Yeah.
Well, he's in an ensemble in Pulp Fiction, and I think that everyone else
Hmm.
around him lifted him up because he was great in that movie. But I think it had a lot more to do with all of the other elements of the movie.
Hmm.
That's not a thing I want to get into right now.
Yes,
But
fair.
point is, from all accounts, from most accounts, he's like an egotistical guy. And I think that he poured a lot of himself into this movie and
Hmm.
not just the marketing, like into the script. He had a lot of control over it. And so I think that it comes across in the movie, and it's hard to ignore, and it makes it unlikable just for that reason alone. Like, I could overlook
Yes.
certain things, but that, to me, it just is like when you make the assumption that we're all going to be on the same page as you when you say this movie is the Schindler's List of sci-fi.
He compared it to Star Wars A New Hope.
Come on, man. Like, delusional.
Yeah.
Absolutely delusional.
It's dumbfounding because you had to watch the cuts. You had to see these things and know what this was. And unless you're looking at, like you said, without that film, those rose tinted glasses
Right.
of his own ego.
Right. He still says, I think it's great and I would do it all over again exactly the same way. And it's like,
Good. Good for you.
okay, well, because you obviously can't see anything except for your own ego.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre. It's hard to watch. It's very cringy.
It's got a couple funny moments in it. I'll give it that.
The acting is just I don't think the acting is the problem. I think it's like the
No.
script, direction, cinematography. Those camera angles were fucking weird. The lighting was nuts.
Well, they said they were trying to do them all Dutch shots, I think is what they called it, because they wanted a comic book feel.
Well, they were all like sideways and shit. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. Yeah.
It looked nutty. And I think that as an actor, you can only do so much with that because
Mhm.
there were good actors in this movie. And I think that they just were like, I'm going to do it because that's what the director is telling me to do. And this is what is around me. And they're paying me.
If everything around you is not great, you just do the best you can.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think you should watch it. I think you should know going into it that it is like unintelligible, incomprehensible, and
long.
too long.
2 hours that are longer than 2 hours.
And you're gonna have moments where you need to stop the movie and like look around and
Walk around.
just make
Yeah.
sure that you're like, am I okay? Like, is everything okay? Is the world still the world?
You know how sometimes in like Tomb Raider you'll have those moments where you quickly have to press like triangle to get through. You'll have a lot of decision checks in this movie.
Yeah. Well, at one point I paused it and I just walked into the room that Ian was in and just stared at him. And then I just turned
I was
around and
still
walked
watching, yeah.
out. And he just was like,
Oh,
I get it. I got it.
it's like I you're gonna do that more because I'm a little ahead of you. Well, that was Battlefield Earth, guys.
Right. It's basically like a Dune, Planet of the Apes, Star Trek ripoff. If you like the classics and are easily frustrated by people ripping them off, then don't watch it. If you can just put that aside and put many things aside and just watch it to say that you saw it, then go for it.
Yeah. And if you liked us talking about it, please, in our socials in the episode notes, go leave us a rate and review. It makes a big difference for us.
Mhm.
We have some really interesting movies coming up. We've got some fun plans for
Yeah.
October and November, so we can't wait.
Anyone who doesn't know this, I'm very pregnant and feeling it hard. So we decided to like sit down and plan everything out pretty extensively. We're going to be recording ahead of time. So some things may be coming out a couple weeks after we record it. So when I say something like R.I.P. Michael K. Williams, Omar Little, I'm super sad. I'm sure this will come out a few weeks after everybody knows about it. But that's, tragic loss. But yeah, we're gonna be doing things to try to stock up for when baby comes.
So if we drop off our topical humor for a few weeks, it's just so that it doesn't sound so behind.
We'll keep talking shit about anti-vaxxers and QAnon though. That won't go away.
And Scientology. Yeah, we'll stay on our soapbox. We'll just try to we ask your understanding if it's a little delayed.
Right. Well, we appreciate you listening. Go love us on everything.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.